Hi, good evening. Well, as you know, I'm Emily Jones, and I use she, her pronouns. When Bruce Gorman joined the ESMA Dinner Committee, I was taken by his poise and his ability to engage many influential leaders in our community. Bruce reminded me of the men I worked with on the HRC Business Council when it was first formed. First and foremost, they were incredibly handsome. They were confident, humble, influential with their corporate leaders and legal staff. They had a really broad social network, which they used to create new public policies. They loved to celebrate their success and always have a good party after our meetings. Over the past 2 decades, Bruce Gorman showed up. He co-led the Gay Alliance successfully through very turbulent times. He co-produced the premiere of Shoulders to Stand On at the Eastman. He was a strong supporter of people, helping people with AIDS, and he really, truly helped guide the Trillium Healthcare strategy. He hosted many fundraisers at his home for Louise Slaughter and other key leaders of our community. He used his talents and his treasure to help found the Arnett House for LGBTQ youth in Rochester. And lately, in the last few years during the pandemic, he worked tirelessly each week at the People's Pantry to ensure food insecure people had food for the next week. Bruce has a huge heart and a loving presence that makes everyone who interacts with him feel like they're the only one in the room. He knows you, and he will always remember you when he meets you again. But most importantly, he is always here to help. Bruce, the HRC Western and Central New York Dinner Committee, along with the LGBTQ+ community allies here tonight, are honored to recognize you with the 2024 HRC Equality Advocate Award.
Thank you. I am really humbled and honored by this recognition. But first of all, I want to thank the HRC committee and those very kind folks who had such generous things to say about me and the work I've been doing on behalf of our community. Next, I want to thank my husband, Joe Nardone. Filling all these seats with family and friends. Now, if you will indulge me, I have a story to share that I think may illustrate for you where my passion to care for those in need came from. His name was John Thomas Gorman, born July 28th, 1919. He was my dad. A child of the Great Depression, he and his two brothers struggled to help pay the bills when their dad lost all his money in the aftermath of the Great Depression. Life was rugged for his family. Now, Dad loved to learn, studied hard, but after high school, there was no way he could continue his education. You see, there were no resources. So Dad joined the National Guard. Once we entered World War II, Dad was drafted into the Army. And only 5 days after he and Mother were married, he shipped overseas for 5 years, where he served honorably. Now, upon Dad's return from the war, because of the GI Bill, his dream of a higher education became a reality. He and Mother moved to Canton, New York, where Dad was enrolled in engineering school at Clarkston University. However, the GI Bill did not cover the cost of married life, especially because my brother and I came along rather fast. Dad's dream was about to come to an end. He couldn't stay in college because he had a family to support. But thankfully, his Uncle George learned of his plight and every month sent Dad a check to cover his expenses. Once Dad graduated, along with many of his fellow GIs, he was picked up by IBM, and life changed for the better. After many moves and many years, you see, Dad did very well at IBM. And when that happens, you get a promotion and they move you. But we finally settled in Endicott, New York, where IBM had a huge and growing presence. Life was finally good. One day, Dad told my brother Rick and me that we were such big helpers around the house that we were going to receive a weekly allowance. Rick and I looked at each other with such glee. You see, we were not allowed to have gum or candy or soft drink. And down the street there was a corner store. Visions of spending our newly acquired wealth glowed before our eyes. However, the first weekend of our first payout, Dad made an announcement. We were required to take a portion of our allowance and place it in the children's collection at church every Sunday. Well, we said, Dad, why? Now, as a man of few words, Dad sat us down and said, boys, those who can must. Well, we shrugged our shoulders, having no clue what Dad was talking about. But every Sunday, we grudgingly dropped an envelope into that children's collection for many years. Now let me fast forward 5 years. I'm a freshman in high school. It was that holiday time, that one time of the year, you know, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, when we give to the needy. We were busy collecting food and gifts for all the needy. I volunteered with some classmates to help make the deliveries. We were driven to a part of the town I had never seen before, guided into a building I didn't know existed, walked down a hallway that was darkened, where we knocked on doors and were welcomed into apartments, the conditions of which shocked me. To this day, I can still see the abject poverty that stunned me that day. That evening at the dinner table, where it was the custom for Rick and me to tell Mother and Dad about our day and what we had learned, I let Rick go first. When my time came, I described what I had seen that afternoon. Now, Dad could tell from the look in my eye and the tremble in my voice that I was in shock. He waited a while, sat back in his chair, and then said, "Well, Bruce, what did you learn today?" I was silent at first, but remember saying, "Now I understand why those who can must." Now I share this story with you because there is a reason why I care so passionately for those in need. That reason is because of a humble man who overcame adversity, created a life of comfort for his family, and taught me a simple lesson that continues to guide me today. So as you consider this award and why I might be worthy of it, please help me revere a humble man, a man of few words, my dad, and remember, those who can must. Thank you.